Well, you fellers really enjoyed this 78 Ford F100, and to be honest, I do too. If you remember previously, she didn't quite make it home under its own power. It kept overheating violently, but I eventually got her towed home here in the shop, and work's going to continue on it. Now, when I asked you fellers and fellettes, what should we do with this thing? Overwhelmingly, the response was frame off restoration, complete rebuild, redo it, bumper to bumper. Now, I agree with you, kind of, like 87.2%. And what I mean by that is, it is absolutely, and I agree, way too solid of a truck and way too hard to find in this condition to just put it in the trees or park it up and forget about it. We got to do something about it. But also, let's be realistic. A huge majority of us can't just throw $30,000 at a pickup that we'll never get the money out of it. And we don't have a year to 2 years to rebuild this whole thing. So what I want to do is go ahead and overhaul this thing, bring her right back around. And we will go bumper to bumper, but we're going to do it on a budget. We're going to be realistic about this. Let's see how nice of a truck we can make without just needlessly throwing money at it. And what I mean by that is, does it need new paint? Probably not. Let's just try to revive what we got on here. Seat shot, let's not buy a new one, let's just recover it. So that's what I want to do. Just make a really nice truck that's obtainable for all of you guys watching. And to be honest, I want to spiff this up enough where my son maybe starts driving this than the other one. Now we're going to need to do this in a couple phases here, fellers, because if all goes well, the biggest investment we're going to have here is time. And looking at this truck, I spent an hour on it this morning, kind of just dinking around. There is some big hours to sink into this thing to get her to where I think it'd be a nice going to town rig. First thing we need to address is this bad overheating issue. Can't even drive it on the road right now. So we're going to start there, get the brakes working, take her for a spin, make sure we got a reliable platform here before we spend any more time and money on this thing, and then we'll move on. Let's dig in. We got a lot of work to do. You guys didn't miss anything exciting here. Basically what I was doing was just going through everything, getting a parts list, ordering everything, and making sure that we have it on hand. And whilst doing that, I wanted to make sure that, or at least be fairly certain, we didn't have a bad head gasket in here. And it's usually really obvious when that happens. You're going to be burning a lot of smoke, and it's going to have kind of a sweet smell to it. That's that antifreeze or coolant. You're going to have a ton of pressure in your cooling system just geysering out. Your sparkulators here will be a really wonky, whitish, flakish color. I mean, you'll clearly know something is wrong. So I pulled the sparkulators. I even pulled the water neck housing off to make sure there was no pressure coming out of the head. And there's nothing on the oil as far as contamination or color there. So I think, hopefully, knock on wood, our head gasket is okay, which is remarkable because I can't even imagine how many times this thing's been overheated. I also did discover it's definitely had a thermostat in it, but I do believe the water pump is original. So what we're gonna do is just go ahead and replace that water pump. It was super cheap. It was like $27. We're going to put an $8 thermostat in it, came with the gasket. The biggest expense here on the cooling system is going to be the radiator. Now, I called up cold case radiators because they have direct fit replacements for this. We decided to try to put the big boy in here for the V8s. That'll take care of it. But the biggest thing for that I wanted is the electro-digital fans that we can also put on here and get rid of this here mechanical one. The biggest pain we're going to have is, the heater core. It's also leaking. Great. We'll save that for last. Let's go ahead and dig in here. So here's the sparkulators. I mean, she's definitely running Richard and Bill Gates, but I don't see anything on these that tell me it's burning any coolant or anything like that. Did the old finger compression test. I used the Lone Wolf 6000 over here and just spun on it And then you just feel for wind. Sure, they're all relatively close. One on the way backer hinder is a little bit down, and it does have a lot of blow by. I mean, this thing looks like a train from the 1800s. So what I did, I actually found this new product. I had never seen it till recently. Barman, but this is the total engine tune-up, and it says oil on it, sure. So I took a funnel, and I used 3 cans, half a can per cylinder. The nice thing about these 6 in a row ready to toes is when you fill them up, you know it's getting all the way around the rings. I have a hunch, and I'm hoping we just have some sticky waffle rings or something in here, and that's causing that blow by. So while we're working on everything else, this is already soaking and full of whatever this new magical juice is. So hopefully by the time we're done, we can get that out. The rings will be loosened up. We could put some new sparkulators, and I also got to put some new lightning hoses in because I forgot that I had broke one. Still need to order those actually. Here we can see a brand new thermostat was put in, as well as like 3 tubes of rid of. That's fine. We're going to replace it again anyway because I don't want to be in here multiple times. It's cheap enough. So I think I'm going to start with the radiator first, get this out of here so we can get some elbow room. Then we'll go ahead and pop the water whirler off, get all this stuff dolled up. I even got some new heater hose. It was on sale. This is really hard and brittle, and it's got to be the original. Look at the clamps. Those are the factory clamps, and I got to take those off anyway if we're doing the heater core. So might as well put some new hose in here as well, right? Right. I already took the rig out back here and recycled the stuff that was in it. You should have seen it. It just looked like mud and butterscotch pudding with just a tinge of green at the end, which must have been what I added. Now, overheating can be caused from a bajillion reasons. Some we already talked about. Could be as easy as a stuck thermostat, but could be a bad radiator, could be a cracked head, bad head gasket. I mean, you really got to kind of go down the list. What was that? I don't know. To make sure you're actually fixing the problem. We're kind of doing the shotgun approach here. The radiator being the biggest expense, but look, this thing is absolutely shot. I can see holes all over it. It's got like quick steel smeared into it. I could see the cores are just completely plugged. So it's got to go anyway. There we go. Got the mud pan out. You can see all the discoloration. All those different rows are just, well, they're bad. Grabbing the fan off here. Wow, you stubborn mule. There it is. Now we're just going to run some washers on that when we get back around to it, because we're going to have the digital fans. Charging whirler belt. Well, I should order another one of them. Keep the wife happy hose off here. Yeah. Nothing. Oh, a little bit of mud. I think this is just 4 bolts. And the water pumps out. This is about that time a guy's nerves get a little bit rattled, you know. The water whirler here, I stand corrected, was definitely replaced. Well, you could tell by all the room temperature vulcanization cream smeared in here. Also, the bearing is very taut. She's nice and tight here. We have propellers in here, or impellers, or the whatever, the scoopers. Nothing is rotted. Sometimes these get rusted and just disappear, and that's, you know, a bad pump, basically. The other thing is you got this weep hole on the bottom. Where's the bottom? Here it is. Water starts coming out of there. The bearings and whatnot are going bad. Uh-oh. That's a sign you got to replace this. So as of right now, we don't have a bad water whirler. We don't have a bad thermostat. And I just jammed the camera all the way to the back of the block, and it is remarkably clean. I mean, oddly clean. I was just preparing to scoot this outside, fleshlize on it, and then bring it back in, but I don't think we even have to do that. I'll show you here. So now we start thinking, is it really just the radiator? Or could it be cracked cylinder wall, cracked block? cracked head. Uh-oh, we're running out of options. It's getting down there. So you can see here, I got her scoped in the block. I did the head too, but this thing is just, it looks brand new, if I'm being honest. There's no discoloration, this is the bottom side of it. Usually there's rust and sludge and all sorts of stuff in here. And based on what was coming out of the hoses and the radiator, look at that, it's like brown mud. I was really nervous about that. So I don't know if someone maybe put a bad rad in here or if that was the original one or what happened, but I'm getting a little nervous here. We'll continue on though. We're still gonna put, obviously, the new pump in. We got it torn apart this far. Plus, I need my core charge back on that pump, you know. Get this put back together quick, and then we gotta try to retrofit a radiator in here, full-size one. It's gonna go from here all the way over to here. The trick's gonna be the lower rad hose going over there. Well, the guys found the piston with either stuck or broken or bad rings. Here's a normal cylinder wall, right? You guys have seen that a bunch. Let me scooch over here a little bit. There's just huge sludge and carbon buildup all over in this thing. I mean, the rings are doing nothing. They're not even touching the actual cylinder wall. So that's an issue there, big time. The juice is soaking in. That's that shiny stuff there. So I'm gonna empty a whole can of this in there and see if we can break some of this up. Hopefully it's not damaged rings. They're just really stuck, but based on that buildup, it's been an issue for a long time. Not just because the truck was sitting forever. It's not related to that with how much buildup's in there. Got the Cheek Poker 300 hooked on. Try to use the one you're most confident will stick stuff in your face, you know. Got the WP in and the water neck here. Went with a new one. Now, as far as RTV goes, fellers, take it easy for Pete's sake. You only need like 9 gallons on here to hold the gasket in place. And as far as torques, you know, just give it all of it. Look at the buildup in here. That's on the radiator side. Probably about a 1/2 inch deep in there. Since we got a bunch of elbow room up here in the front now, this is a great time to do what I call a Craigslist engine rebuild. And what I mean by that is just, you know, happen to have a little bit of dark blue Ford laying around for some reason. I'm gonna cover up the WP and the new housing here. Otherwise it's just gonna flash rust and not look as worser gooder as the rest of the baddest worser. I'm thinking that maybe if I wash the engine down a little bit, there might be a little bit of blue here and there, so maybe this will blend. Nope, definitely gonna stick out. Oh yeah, just missed it in there. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute, Derek. Shouldn't you wash the engine first? Yep. Couldn't you have painted those before you put them on? Yep. End result, still rebuilt, but lost the receipts. Dang it. Rebuilt the pulley on my cold case bench. Getting all this dug out here, I'll show you in a minute. Onto the radiator. Look at this beautiful piece of equipment right here. Well, you could take that old unit I pulled out, take it down to a shop, and there's people out there that recore them, strip them, fix them, weld them, braze them, patch them, plug them, test them, whatever, paint them up, and give them back to you. But listen, from experience, and I've been there dozens of times, and of course I kept saying, I'll never do that again, but I did. You're $200-300 into it. I've even had more than that into OEM radiators, trying to keep it all original, you know, right? Now we're gonna retrofit this big bad boy in there, and I guarantee it'll take care of the coolant side. It'll bolt into the truck just fine, but the inlet and outlet, we're gonna have to figure something out, because the original outlet on the 6-banger is over here. Now we're cross-relating. And then we're over here on this side, when usually it's over on this side. So I think we'll make it happen, but I decided not to paint this because it's not completely stock anyway with that crude hole cut through the floor and the weird shifter. And I've got a couple other things we're gonna do to the truck while we're rebuilding on her that aren't gonna be completely stock. So I'm not worrying about painting this up. Let's just slide her in, get it bolted in, and start figuring out some hoses. And for that, just got a bunch of miscellaneous hoses and adapters and metal couplers, and hopefully I'll be able to show you guys how to just make something work. All right. Well, I think I got the hosilators figured out here, and the good news is you don't need any special tools or anything like that, and I think I only got maybe $35 into it. And you know, this is factory here, so that shouldn't surprise you. But this is the original bottom rad hose turned down, and then I trimmed a couple inches off of it. This is just a pre-bent piece of muffler pipe found at O'Reilly. And then this was just, well, there's the part number, but it just had the big, whatever, outlet inlet size that I needed with a 90. And I just did that here. And this is solid. And then that's gonna get us out of the way of all this stuff up here, and it's gonna get our ice cube juice flowing just fine. And then this top one here is just your typical coil bendolite one. Just measured the neck here and the neck here and picked that up. There might be one like this for down here, and we can get rid of that piece of muffler pipe and just use a coupler or something, but for now I think that's gonna work just fine. I went ahead and mounted the fan relays over here by the steel me junction and all the other digicals. Ended up going this way. Now you can get like 2 single kits, but it ends up being more. Found this one at Summit Racing, and it's got like this, I don't know, mount. Something that holds the whole thing into place, and then it's got the fusilators right in here. Normally you'd have like your power wire, and then you gotta crimp that onto a fusible link, and then clip that onto an end, and then go to your battery or whatnot. So this kind of tidies her up and actually saved me a little bit of money and all the digital mess. Just got to run these to ground. These are my 2 fan leads here. This is switched ignition, and then this is battery, which I think will come in here. I got them laid out like this because I'm going to wrap some tape around them. These here I'll just snag on right there, you know. And then I have no idea what this guy is, but I get 12 V's with the key on. I get 0 V's with the key off. So I think that'll do the thing for this. And I tried all the switches and knobs, and it doesn't change whatever that thing is. So for now, that'll work just fine. If we run into an issue, we'll just hook this, I don't know, pick something else that turns on. But overall, jamming one of these big rads in here, actually very, very simple. I'm just gonna button up this wiring real quick, and then we gotta move on, great, to the old, you know, heater core. Easy now, let's lower up a second. I got to wrapping the tape on here, got these hooked up, and I was like, wait a second, what did I put this in here for then? Well, in this particular kit, it doesn't have a sending unit wire, I guess, or whatever. So what I'm gonna do is take the ground wires and bring them up over here, plugalize that into this. This is just a switch, essentially. When the temperature rises, in this case to 185, it closes the switch in here, and that's gonna give us ground, right? So when this hits 185, closes, gives the relays ground, those flip, power, fans, coolage. So not gonna self-tap them, because I got to dig in and saw that we didn't have a sending unit. So gonna just twist these together. I don't know, get some Scotch tape or something, drape a wire like this, maybe around that, and then hook it onto this. I think I got enough on this. I'm just gonna take that down the side and then get these down out of the way so they don't get bound up. Got the digital fans grounded here, put a little rubber clamp in. Got them pretty taut because I want to keep it away from the engine here. This is all wired in. Yeah, good enough for the girls we date. And was sitting here looking at this and thought, you know what? If it works, is it really a dumb idea? A guy did go on ahead and replace the sad cable here, as well as the positive attitude one. And this one here has the auxiliary hose on it. So I jammed that into the radiator support up here, because remind on you that these digital fans are also bonded to this. So I want to make sure that we had a nice ground situation going on with the body here. So I think that officially wraps up. I just got to tighten this up. Yeah, sure. Now I can test on these fans really quick. Just got the Gidget-Magoo from my digital testing meter. And all I'm going to do is take the probe end over here, hold it on that sensor, and then I could take this guy right here and I'm going to touch it to my body ground because we want to test that too. And this should flip the relays and kick the fans on. There we go. Boop, boop. Done. Now on the GMs, you know, Chevy, Buick, Pontiac, Olds, Cadillac, whatever, you want to service this motor, it's just a couple screws, whole thing comes out. But you know, the old Ford, you got to drop the whole entire unit, it looks like, just to replace the fan motor. So I figured while a guy is in there replacing the core, might as well go ahead and replace that little fan motor too. It'd be the pits to get this all back together. And then I can't remember if I think I did test it. It might have worked, but if it stopped working in a month or something like that and have to do the whole process again, I found that little motor on the line for like 28 bucks or something like that. So cheap insurance, we're going to go ahead and put that in too. So the guy figures he's got to lay under here to do the stuff. So I started cleaning in here. We got, you know, 2, 3, 4 mouse bodies, carcasses, carriages, they're vertebrae. Let me get that out of the way. I think I just got to undo the thing here. I don't know what that does. I'll just cut it. And there should just be the wire to the motor on the other side, and I think 3 bolts. But I'm going to try to loosen this up and bend it, you know, a little bit so we can jiggle shake this out. Because I think this whole thing has to come out. I've eaten about 3/4 of a mouse by now, but that's okay. Still don't have hantavirus yet. Had to unplug this thing. Also found another cabulator. So I got to get this doodab off and this doodab. But the trick here was taking out this bolt up in here, fellers. And then a guy can bend, see? Bend this out. And that's what let her go. And I think that's the trick to getting these out. As far as going in, I might just take a ratchet strap. You know, I like to use them and just bring it really far out. But I'm gonna go find, I think that's a 1/4 inch or something, get that off quick. Get out of there. Seems to have, oh, I got juice leaking. Oh, this is bound up, I think. There we go. Ah, piece of cake. So here's what I was saying about this fan. Now we can take this off, pull this out, and then you have the hamster wheel in there, and you can swap this out. And then this is encased here. And of course, for this truck, Ford, they list 2 different heater core types. So, and I mean, same engine, auto manual, doesn't matter, AC, color, barometric pressure. I guess it just depended on how they felt that particular day, which unit they're gonna run. So I picked up both, and we'll just return the one we don't need. Just gonna pop this off and take a look. First look here. You can definitely tell it was leaking because of the way that it is, and also that someone just patched it with duct tape. See there, that'll hold. Nope, clearly didn't. So that was definitely the issue. I don't think I've ever seen that before. I've clearly confused myself here. This part number there and this part number, they're identical size, shape, everything. The only difference is that versus this. And I'm pretty sure a guy can just bend this to that. So I'm not sure why there's two different part numbers and they're very specific about one is AC and one is non-AC. Well, this wasn't so bad. I was expecting, you know, a mouse apartment or maybe at least a house, but just some leavage and not even level 1. I mean, it wasn't up there bad at all. Ooh, penny. Okay, now we're talking. What year is it? So anyway, I'm gonna pop this bird cage off, get the other motor on here. I think I'm gonna get the cheek poker clean on this, just a hair, muzzle. We're here, you know, clean this up. Spritz a little bit of rust treatment and then just get all this put back together quick. Plastic's in good shape. I mean, don't listen to all the noise of the stuff falling out of there. Oh, I guess, yeah, we do got some issues in there, but yeah. Well, we cheek poked it, then we blued on it, and then we used the Mouse Sucker 500 on it. And I think we got 98% of the stuff out of there. And then I just hit it with this rust fix. It'll turn all the rust black here in a second when it dries up. When I put this back together, there used to be a foam gasket here, which has disintegrated. And it looks like they had a little bit of something on here. So I'm gonna do the right thing and just smear on like 48 gallons of RTV on both of these. And that ought to work just fine. So I scanned the peepers on these again. And again, they're from the same manufacturer, different part numbers, but absolutely identical. Unless something on the inside is different, you know. High performance, super flow, some sort of Ford add-on, I'm not sure. And then I got to comparing again and found the obvious difference. This one is like 19 feet shorter. And apparently this is some other unknown model that doesn't pull up for this year or make or engine or AC or non-AC or four-wheel or two-wheel or white pickup. I got to looking closer at this unit for a part number so I could just try to wrap my brainstem around what's going on here. And this one's dated January of 1987. So we're on no less than our third heater core now. And then a guy got to thinking on it, looking at the heater box, wherever that went. It's back there. They put big old gobs of poverty chrome on here, and I think they were spacing it up because this one was loose in there. So then I got to looking at this unit, and sure enough, there's a piece of plastic in here that is for a shorter unit. Okay, you following with here now? And this one was too small, these are too big. There's a piece of plastic in here. So I did the right thing and just snapped her out of there, right? Just boom. I heated it up and walled her back and forth, tried to bring her off flush. Of course, it snapped a chunk out of the front, but it was small enough. I did the right thing, just ran some aluminum muffler tape across that and then rebuilt this whole unit. So now, this rig will fit right on in here. And now we've got the max flow, performance, super outer heat 9000 or something. Put all that back together. And tried to get the gopher wheel, wind slicer, heat producer, mouse, holder cage off of the other motor. And you do that by pry juice, juice, pry juice. But no, blued that right out. So about 13 millimeters after that happened, I called up a parts store and picked up a new aluminum one. That'll be nice. And then like I say, we're gonna put a new motor in here because you gotta drop this whole unit out of the truck just to replace this. So set this in place, screw this in, screw the cover back on that, and then we're ready to put all of this back in. And I think we've got everything kind of refurbished, so hopefully we don't have to take this apart again. Okay, plan. I'm gonna put the original gasket back in here. You know, this came right off the assembly line. Sure, that'll do. Wow, for Pete's sake. Is there really only 2 screws holding that in there? I guess so. I'm a sandwich, you know. Yeah, Yeah, that's nice and taut in there. Where'd that rotten foam? There it is. There, that's factory. Well, that's all back in. It went so quick, didn't even get a chance to show you. Just anger and pushing, basically, got it in. No, but honestly, just lined up the motor. That's the easy part. Put the bottom bolt in, then you can hinge it and come back out here. And then I just fished these out, clamped it, went back inside, and then pushed that bolt in over there. Being there's literally only 3 bolts that holds the whole thing, and that's nice and simple. Also a tip when you're pushing your rubber lines on here, so these don't bend back in, grab one and hold it, push your other line on, clamp it. Then when you let this side go, when you push this one in, the rubber and the clamp will keep that whole unit from pushing back in. I think next I'm going to go ahead and wire this motor up. One of the wires just goes to ground, one goes into here. That's done. And then we can connect the rubber lines up here. And I think that'll do that. Decided to use the original connector here and just splice it here. I'm using the solder fire ones and then use the original grounding location there. So let's turn the key on, flip that fan switch, and see what happens here. There we go. Nice. You might have noticed along the way here, I had the temp sensor incorrectly in the water neck. The guy forgot that I had to plug in so I can hook the up to the, But I don't have one of these to screw into that water neck, so I'm just going to use the old one because it's all one casted piece. I'm just going to clean it up and rebuild that, put that in. This is sitting over there now. I don't know. I think that should work, right? It doesn't interfere. It's going to have all the hot waters. On to rubber hoses and put the old water neck on once it dries with the new thermostat and gasket, and then this is all done. We can move on to the brake master. The temp sensor for the dash gauge is right underneath the exhaust port, the back one back there somewhere. And the reason I'm keeping that is I'm planning on putting gauges in here in the future. So I need that sending unit alone for the dash gauges, and then just a secondary one to kick the fans on. If this doesn't work, then I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll move it around, but that was easy and the wire was already there. Well, we've got the cooling system completely she's rebuilt on at this point. Guy's done about all I could do. Nice new big rad, new thermostat, new water pump, new hoses, new heater core as well. So this should not leak and definitely gave us more cooling capacity. And then the digital fans here should just keep it nice and cool. As long as, we don't know yet, but as long as we don't have a cracked head or something like that. But I'm pretty confident this is going to take care of our heating issue. We'll put ice cube juice in it here in a little bit and test on it. But first, we got to get the stopulators working. This brake master cylinder needs replaced. And if you remember, the brake pedal is sticking down. And there's a piston in here with springs and seals and stuff. I don't know, it's science. But the science isn't working, so the pedal is sticking right now. You can just get a rebuild kit for these and rebuild them, but by the time you pay yourself, I don't know, 10 bucks an hour, might as well just buy the $37 that's already reman and ready to go. That's what we're gonna do. These can be tricky getting these fittings out of here, and it's not so much getting the fitting out of the master cylinder, but this line likes to stick in the fitting and twist and break. Now this one, you can see it's kind of moist. Guy's been just shooting juice on it, I don't know, every 15-20 minutes while I've been working on all of this, just soaking it down. Because I've been there, you got to fight on them. Luckily, I think these are going to break free. Yeah, there we go. So that one's fine, that one's probably going to be fine as well. Just got to take these two fittings off quick, and then there's a 9/16 on the firewall. This whole unit's got to come out and we'll replace on it. Little plan on the head actually worked out for a feller for once. I'm going to do the right thing here and crack these loose enough to where the brake juice just starts leaking all over the floor, You don't want to just get it out of there. That sure worked out nice. Really isn't fun trying to cobble in new fittings right here close to the master. Yeah. Yeah. Well, help me understand this one. Well, one of two things are gonna snap, the bolt or my forearm. I could just torch this off, but I need it for my core charge, you know. Yeah, rod was just stuck in there. Some of you fellers might be going, wait a minute, Derek, you missed a step here. You mounted the brake master cylinder and you never bench bled it. Well, this is how I do it, and over the years, having done this 3,942.5 times, had a bad one out of box, I figured out that bleeding it in the truck is just like bench bleeding it, but it actually saves a tremendous amount of time, frustration, and brake juice all over your bench. If you mount it in a vise, bleed it with the plunger, yes, that works great. You got tubes that go up in there and recirculate juice and all this stuff, and then you carefully carry it over and then mount it, and it's all juiced up. And what I do is I mount it in the truck. You've already got the brake pedal and the rod in the assembly, and I just use my thumb over the hole and burp one chamber at a time. Once I get a tremendous amount of pressure, it'll actually push your thumb out of the way. You can't hold the amount of pressure it has. I hook up the lines, and then we just bleed the wheel cylinders, and we're done. I've done it this way for years, never had an issue, and it's way faster. I'll show you quick. So I've got the cap off here. We're gonna fill the rear chamber up here real quick. There's also a little plastic plug that goes in the fitting area. I've got that out. I'm gonna firmly press my finger in this port. Okay, go down, Bentley. Got nothing. Let the air out. Press it again. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Hold on, Bentley. Now I can see bubbles in here, and that's how you know it's drawing in fluid. Down, up, down, up. Got juice there. Down, up, down, up. Okay, stop. Rear one's bled. Just gonna put this fitting in here so we're not sucking any air back in while we do the front one. Repeat the process, and the master cylinder is bled. We can move on to each wheel. I figured I'd show on you this just in case you want to go the rebuild route. Pull this little rubber boot off. You got this springy, clippy, hog ringy holder on her thing. And then this is the actual plunger assembly here. That spring goes in the back, and that's what actually pushes your pedal rod assembly out. And then you've got these two seals on here, kind of like an accelerator pump on a fuel make it happener. This one up here is absolutely wrecked, and that's why it was leaking juice out of the back of the master cylinder here and also not holding pressure. Also, you probably can't see it, but this is really gravelly and sandy, all this material in here. And that's what I was referring to as making this not only stick, but the bore in here gets really scored up. Heavy scratches and stuff like that. And that's gonna let this bleed off and not really do its job. Now they do make brake hones where you can actually just stick a hone in here in a drill and hone this out and clean it. Look at all that gunk in there. And you can try to lightly hone it and then go ahead and rebuild this assembly and put it back together and try to use it. But I've always thought, well, by the time I pay myself 10, 15 bucks to doing it, plus the rebuild kit, might as well just throw on a new one, right? So that's what I'm gonna do, is just take this back for a core and put the reman one in. Master cylinder's in, but before we can bleed it, I gotta fix this pedal assembly. Now it's not sticking anymore, which is great, but there was this issue where it was hanging, and you could probably hear that clicking. That's the brake light switch. So it would sit like this and leave the brake lights on, even with the key off, and it's gonna drain the battery. And it's this little bolt here that goes through that rod assembly and ties the pedal assembly to the rod assembly, and it was really loose. I gotta go over and juice this up and get this nut working properly, and hopefully this bushing will actually work still. It's kind of marred up, but I think if I get this greased up and tightened, we'll be back in business there. Okay, guys, got the pedal assembly fixed. There's a little bit of room here, but that's just a worn out hanger. But at least it's coming up. I think I can take that up with the brake switch here. That's why they make them adjustable. However, this one, of course, was cross-threaded in there, and all the threads that I need are stripped off. So I can't move this farther up because it just doesn't do anything. I got to find another speed nut, or unfortunately I might have to go buy another switch so I can get this adjusted correctly, take up just that little play there. Well, a guy just ended up using the Tanya Harding championship model and bending the tab enough to where I can get that in there and nut it down to where I think it's going to stay. And testing it out here, it seems to be working. So for now, we'll go with that. If we have issues with the brake lights, we know it's just that little switch. They're not expensive, but save a couple bucks anyway. Well, I'll be dipped. Rotors have some grooves in them, but plenty of pads left, so brakes redone. Huh, look like a football player. Blue 42! Anywho, time to bleed on the brakes. I like to pull out the bleeders. First step, juice, heat. And I like to use a socket wrench as well. Sometimes those brake wrenches, they're a pretty cheap casting and you just end up rounding these off. Uh-oh, then you're into the vice grip territory. These are plugged absolutely solid and you're not gonna have a very good bleeding sesh. You know what I mean? So I like to take a straw, some sort of juice, I got some over here, and just clean these out really good, pop them back in, and then we could start bleeding. I'm gonna start with the front, of course, work my way around, and hopefully we don't pop any lines or hoses, because you build a lot of pressure when you're bleeding from the constant pedal action. So, you know, cross your toes. Well, here's our evidence that the gravity bleeding worked just fine. A little puddle over there as well. Again, not gonna hurt you. Now we know we got juice all the way through everything and the caliper's not plugged up. Got those back in. Now I'll scooch in the back and do the same operation after I get the front bled up first, because I want to pop the tires back on. Right now I'm using this little vacuum pneumatic brake juice suckulator 2000 thing. And it just basically sucks all the air out of the line. When it becomes solid, you just shut her down and that's it. Well, this is all the old brake juice we sucked out of there, and now we've got brand new fresh peak brake juice all the way through the truck. New master cylinder seems to be working great. Luckily, and for the first time in, I don't know, long time, no brake lines popped or exploded in my teeth or my eyes, so that was nice. Let's check the pedal out, see if we've got a firm one. Oh yeah, nice firm pedal, comes right back. I'd say we're in business. Well, the guys got to finish getting the engine back together here. Let's start with the sparkulators and new lightning hoses. Of course, I got Motorcraft lightning staffs, and then I don't know what I got for the hoses, just the cheapest thing they had, you know. Well, that does it for the lightning system over here. There's one more thing I think I want to do before a guy takes this thing for a spin, and that's address the fuel make it happener here. If you remember when we picked this thing up, a few of you were a little too deep in the wobble pops, you know. I had to do a tailgate rebuild on the unit over here, and while it's somewhat making it happen, the choke housing is, well, it's just gone. It's completely gone, busted. Screws are stripped out, it's a mess. So we'd have to swap bodies or find another used unit or something like that. And stumbling around on the interwebs, a guy found this on that Jungle website, you know. It looks to be an exact replica, but there's no name or Casting. It's clearly a Chicken Lo Mein brand, you know. But I'm gonna throw this on and give it a try. Get this, this was $58 with free 2-day shipping. I like it. I like it a lot. Gonna set the transfer slot to square here, jam up the fast idle just a titch, bolt this on, and at least we'll have a choke so it's not so hard starting, you know. Yeah, get on out of there. While I'm in here, I think a guy is gonna delete on all this baloney. It's that EGR's California stuff. I'm gonna make a delicate cut right here. We need to be precise with this. And then you just gently remove this. If you take a vice grip and just flip her over, that's an EGR pipe later bender offer. And we're just gonna squeeze this shut, you know, and then bend it over on itself. And then we don't have all that exhaust gas flying in here. Yeah, yep, okay. Deleted. Expertly folded over, same with the other side. And if you're worried about this leaking, NASA tested it in 96, 98, again in 02. That's gonna be just fine. Unplug this thing here. Of course, that's, you know, OEM right here. And I'll be dipped. But the plug that I took out of the WP to put in the sensor, that's gonna go right on in there. And that'll get rid of like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 golf tees and miscellaneous stuff that doesn't need to be hooked up. And then we put on this little Alien thing again, hook up the fuel, make it happener, and we're in business. All right, Bruce Lee 1 barrel going back on. Oh yeah, I like the glove. Guy's got the digital choke wired in now. Just searched around for 12Vs up here. I think I found the original connector actually and just spliced into that, you know. So that's done and good. Also took off the Parmesan cheddar valve here. Figure we're recycling enough exhaust the way that this thing chooches like a coal train. So that's gonna be coming off of the filler cap there, swinging into the air cleaner. I wanted to give her a little bit of clean air. So I just used a push-in breather on the back side there, and that'll help a little bit. We're also gonna completely rebuild the air cleaner, because when you're doing these Craigslist rebuilds, no one really believes it unless you got a chrome air cleaner or you paint just the air cleaner, but you still don't have receipts. You know, you lost that, but it's got good oil pressure, you know, so it's rebuilt. Bentley's over here hand sanding the base of it. And then I got the top over here in the bench vise. I'm gonna hit her with the old cheek poker first. This saves a lot of time getting the loose paint off, and then I'll hand sand this section down too. We're going 400 grit before we. When a guy's digging in shapes like this, I always try to find something that fits in that. Sure makes sanding easier. While that air filtration system's drying, I'm gonna jump under and change the oil on this. The crankcase by now has got to be 99% brake clean and Berryman and ATF and you name it. It's like 74 gallons over full. I don't want to run it like that, obviously, and I also don't want to pump any of that through the oil filter because I got a brand new Wix on it with hardly any miles. So we'll leave the filter, but I'm gonna throw some Rotella in her. Now while I'm scooching around under there, I'm gonna go ahead and grease up the front end. Yeah, I said it, okay? I'm gonna grease it up. I'm there anyway. So let's just do it. Well, as suspected, the oil was, well, it was not oil, basically. But hey, did you know if a guy's got a sticky lifter or lifters, plural, you can pour a couple cans of Berryman right in the crankcase, fire your rig up, and just let it idle. Listen, I said idle. Don't be revving on it. And let your oil pump through the oil system there, and then drop that oil and change on it, and you could bring something back around. Whoa, whoa. Just spilt 9 gallons. Well, hey, it's that time. Let's go ahead and fire this old girl back up. I got the vacuum gauge hooked up to the fuel make it happener there, and we'll dial in that idle circuit. Let it sit here and run, warm up, Finish topping off the ice cube juice, see if these digital fans kick on and whatnot. Now, I reckon she's gonna smoke like crazy. All that juice and whatnot we got in there, it's gonna be fogging skeeters terribly bad. But let's go ahead and see if it fires off. Fuel's hooked up. We got the V's on it. Let's see what happens here. I already filled the carburetor bowl, so I will give it a couple pumps here. Almost immediately fired. Couple more pumps. Come on. Huh. There she goes. Whoa, it's in gear. Wow, you can't tell what you have in this. Oh yeah, there's the smoke. Oh, it's hefty too. Is it gonna idle? No, idle's way too low. I'll hold it for a minute. Oil pressure light came off, that's good. Get in the air fuel here and then we'll have to readjust the idle again. Here it's starting to smooth out. Quarter turn at a time. Oof da may, she's smoking. Trip hazard. Well, for whatever it's worth, it does sound a lot better than when I originally picked it up. It's slowly coming around. It's gonna take a while to burn off all that snake oil and juice I threw down there. Fans have not kicked on yet, but it is warming up gradually, which is a good sign. So I'm just gonna let it sit here and idle for a little bit. I gotta go find some more gasoline. I can't remember how much we ended up putting in this thing. And then we wait. Second cylinder's still acting up. 290 degrees, a little bit hotter. Just waiting for the thermostat to open here, and then we got to see if the fans are going to control the heat. It absolutely 1000% should, unless we've got a cracked head or something like that. So the moment of the truth time is here. It's also almost dinner time, so hopefully this, wraps up here quick. The fans just kicked on. Which is right at the M on the temp gauge, so now we'll see what happens here. Fans already kicked off again by the time I got up to the front of the truck, so this thus far is a success. And I think we're ready for a road test. It's been raining like cats and kittens for the last couple days. Tested the blinking eyes, and they blink. So I went ahead and threw some wiper blades on it. I tell you what, it was 60 bucks for them two things, which makes that one of the most expensive things on this truck now. Also, did you know that Ford stole the idea of the blinking eye initially? That's a true story. We're way out in the middle of nowhere. Actually, we're like an hour from my place. You know, when you test drive rigs, you want to make it really sketchy. Just go out past the point of return, right? So far, the truck is running great. In fact, we can't even run the heater yet because the temp is way down on the bottom of the normal section. Still pretty cold. Fans haven't even kicked on once, which is awesome. I think we might have resolved that issue, but let's just keep going. We got an hour or two of daylight left. Let's hit this 2-lane blacktop and just go see the beauty that Tennessee has to offer. I have no idea where we're at, so we're just gonna go this way, see what happens. Bound to run into a main highway after a while. What do you think of this truck?
It's very smoky.
Smoky? Yeah. It might come out of it. Rides a lot better than the 67 Ford though, doesn't it? It's amazing what 11 years, 11? Carry the one? Yeah. 11 years of technology does. This truck rides a whole lot better. Or it's just really worn out so she floats, you know. Never really looked at the tires again. I have a spare, but no jack. I do have a 4-way that's wedged into the floor down here though, so that's fine. Uh-oh. It is hot, hot, hot. Let's pull over and see if the fan's kicked on. That was really strange. It went from perfectly fine to overheating instantly. We might just have a bad gauge. I don't know, nothing's bubbling or boiling or anything like that. The gauge just all of a sudden went boom. So I'm thinking it's just a faulty sending unit, the original one on the block, or a bad gauge in the dash, because the digital thermometer, which is why I brought this, isn't showing us anything out of the sorts. So I think we're still fine. Let's just pretend none of this happened. And now that I'm an hour and 20 minutes from home, keep going south. Huh. Well, went from the gauge doing the hot, normal thing to just snapped off about, I don't know, 300 yards that way. So I said, might as well swing in and just check it again, because we found the interstate and before we full send it, just wanted to make sure. And yeah, this time we've got an issue actually. It's an easy fix. Go ahead and circle the problem for you. I probably forgot to tighten that clamp. It's about a 99% chance that's the issue. Do not have any coolant whatsoever. We're at a community center in the middle of nowhere. We're gonna mosey around, not trespass, but just see if they got a hose bib or something up here. I do have some tools, maybe we can nurse it together. I also sent a pin to my wife Jessica. She's used to this, so she knows what to do. Right now she's getting gas, coolant, Harbor Freight tools, jack stand, and also a chainsaw and a 6-pack. And she'll be heading this way, but we'll see if we can doll it up. If not, we'll just explore a little bit, right, man?
Yep.
Well, a guy did get the bottom radiator hose hooked back up. Might be time for a pressure test on the old cooling system here. Is it building that much pressure to blow a hose off? I think that clamp was pretty snoozed on there, I gotta be honest. No hose here at this community center thing. There's like 3.5 houses around here, so we're gonna start walking around looking for a hose, try to save Jessica some time. You know, 3 gallons of slough water ought to get us home, maybe. Nice thing about these vice grip hoodies, guy can roll around in the wet and mud, take off your going to town shirt on and throw on your flannel and you still look like you're going to town. Sweetest people on earth down here in the south, I swear it. This sweet old lady here said we can use her hose bib over here. We'll be able to fill up this water can and we'll be on the way here shortly. Well, this sure looks different with the red jug and all, but this is going to work just fine. I just got to remember to put some actual peak in it tonight because it's supposed to get in the next couple days down to the 30s, which is, that's cold out here in Tennessee. So I should mention the truck's been sitting for a long time. You never want to pour ice cold water into a freshly overheated engine. That's how you get the lightning cracks in the old heads in the block. This one we were dumping it in and it wasn't even steaming or gurgling or nothing. So, I mean, it's very, very cool. So hopefully fill it up one more time. We'll be good to go. Bentley's grabbing a jug for the road. I'm gonna fire this up, get stuff circulating. Well, that was pretty eventful, but hopefully we should be good to go now. Got to thinking about it, there's no ridge or lip on those pipes. So if it builds any pressure, it's probably pretty easy for that to slip off. Might have to do revision 2 of ghetto crossover pipe, but here we go. Let's get on the highway.
Destruction. And I'm back to a place that I left a long time ago.
Just pulled in, and as you can hear, the last part of the trip was, it was raining dogs and kittens out there, and I ain't kidding you. Truck did great though. Once I hit the interstate, I peeled every onion that I could find, just put the foot through the firewall there. That's what you got to do with these old rigs, is blow the cobwebs out of them. You know what I mean? We ran the speed limit and allegedly a little bit more until the storm hit. We had to blow it up a little bit, but hey, I gained a whole bunch of confidence in the truck, and I think it's safe to say we can go ahead and move forward with our restoration here. But I need your guys' help. What's the next step? Do we pressure wash the engine bay? Pressure wash the paint, do a paint restoration on this, clean up the outside, make it look nice? Or do we forgo that for now and just focus on the interior and rebuild the interior there? You guys let me know what you want to see next. Bleep bloop it down there in the comments section. Thanks guys for watching, appreciate it very much. We'll see you very soon. Come on motor, let's go.